Welcome. Welcome to number 9 and the last in this series of reflections. Reflections on how we are going to live in the crises of today. How we're going to find a new way of living. And in this one we begin with just a single sentence. It comes from the great Vedic spiritual tradition, our original wisdom. Remember, O my soul, remember. Oh, remember your past efforts. Remember, remember. Remember? Is that all? Remember your past efforts. Remember what you were looking for. Wisdom, a great tradition of original wisdom, putting so much emphasis on remembering. The actual book of the Upanishad, which comes from the Vedic tradition, is in actual fact very small. It is only 18 verses. And the one I quoted is number 17, almost the end. Oh, my soul, remember. Remember your past strivings. Remember, remember. Remember your past efforts. Remember. We so often forget the experiences we've had, the efforts we've made, the searches, the giving up, the trying again. But it is important to remember. You know, this is such an important verse that Mahatma Gandhiji, I think perhaps one of the greatest spiritual and political leaders of modern times, political because he brought his country, the vast country of India, which then included what we now call Pakistan, he brought that vast people to freedom, to political freedom and justice through non-violent resistance, non-violence, which is exactly what we need to learn to do today. And Mahatma Gandhiji once said that if all the literature in the world, all the spiritual literature in the world, and all the scriptures were lost, and this one book, these 18 verses of the Upanishad, was all that was saved, we would have enough to fulfill our human vocation, to learn how to live fully and in peace with each other and with the source of all life. One verse from the Upanishad is enough. Remember. So we're going to start at the end of this series by remembering all that we have tried to discover, to listen to hear, to respond to during these 9 series. 9 parts of the series. 9. It wasn't really planned, but it does remind us that for all of us it took 9 months to grow from conception to birth. So in our reflections we're going to ask ourselves, well, what has come to life in us? What has been born in us during these last 9 months of reflection on ordinary, everyday themes, ordinary, everyday, but vital themes for living life in today's world? Well, each one of us will find something. Something will have changed in our attitude, in our self-knowledge, in our values, in our responses during these months. We've brought them a series of reflections because we know from ordinary everyday experience that when our angle of perception changes, or we have a new optic, a new angle of vision, we usually notice a detail, an important detail, that we missed in the familiar sights and of everyday life. That is why we chose for the series this picture of trees reflected in the water, and then reversed the image, or saw that the image we had first seen was the reversed image, so that we were reminded to notice the details of the reality of everyday life that we otherwise miss. So we're going to go through, slowly go through, the main message of each of the reflections in this series. In order to help us, I suggest that you look particularly for the symbols, the visual symbols or image which expressed this theme, and then for a clear message, just a few sentences in which the message speaks to you, and then for a key phrase or sentence. It could be something like this verse from the Isha Upanishad, or it could be the actual title given to the particular video in that number in the series. So a clear message, a visual image or symbol, a key sentence or phrase, all of which will help us to focus on the essence. And remembering, of course, that what is the message for you, what you discover anew through your reflection, will be yours. Everyone will find his or her own. And so, welcome to all of you. And we will begin the small reflections on the series. We'll find a new way of living. We'll find a way of forgiving. Somehow, somewhere, someday. You may recognize that line. It's a line from a very popular song from a very successful musical, West Side Story. It's the story of humanity's great tragedy, our failure to live together in peace on this planet. It's a tragedy that goes right back to the beginnings of our life here together as a human family. We have it recorded in the first story of Cain and Abel in the Bible. Greed, jealousy, desire for power have prevented us throughout the whole course of our history as a human family from learning to live together in peace and respect. So if this is so familiar, why do we need to give such great attention to it now? It's because from scientists and politicians and spiritual leaders, we have been hearing now for at least half a century that we have reached crisis point. Humanity has reached crisis point living on this planet. We have many examples of how the crisis is overtaking us and why. We've been hearing for the last number of decades the crisis coming through imbalance of resources, those who have and those who don't have. Global movements, economic movements, political movements, movements from war and violence. We'll find a new way of living someday, somewhere. somehow. Is there any hope? Yes, of course. There are people who are free enough from their fears and their selfishness and their greed to be able to live life fully, to enjoy it, to value it, and to pass on and share what they have found and enjoy. But it's clear that we are at the point of an era of human transformation. Either our values, our attitudes, and our response to our unity as a human family have got to change, or else we face almost inevitably total destruction. The suggestion is that during the coming weeks, we deliberately put aside about 10-15 minutes each day just to sit quietly alone and reflect on my responsibility for today's crisis. To look particularly at where I have discovered signs of hope that the someday, somewhere, somehow will be now. And the challenge is, when I see this, will I really commit myself to becoming engaged, committed to the change, the transformation of humanity's attitude to life on this planet? Looking for the positive, sharing it, passing it on, and really deciding that I do have a responsibility to change, to bring about this new way of living for all of us. So we continue with our reflection on the era or the crisis of violence we're living through, and how important it is to change our way of relating. Relating, first of all, with our environment, this planet Earth on which we all live. For exciting though it may be to think that we could discover another planet Earth soon, we are not going to find New York or London or Sydney all set up there and waiting for us just to change planets like changing houses from one place to another. We are on this planet, and this is where we are going to live our life's journey. Okay, so how am I in relationship with this planet? The great advances in cosmology in recent years and the rapidity in which a tsunami of knowledge is overwhelming us has made us change our attitude to the environment in which we live. The planets and planet Earth are not just some sort of distant objects or even near objects in which there is a separation from us, as though we live independently of planet Earth. We know about the unfolding of our enormous cosmos. We know about the research into the milliseconds after the Big Bang. And we've come to realize that this unfolding is an unfolding, an opening out, an evolution, if you prefer the word, from that one source, and that we are part of this unfolding that has taken 14.5 perhaps billion years, and we perhaps only 4 million years beginning to unfold as a human species, we are part of the whole movement of becoming. A minuscule part of it, perhaps, we may think, but nevertheless, we are part of the unfolding of all that is, including the unfolding of our planet Earth, the planet where we live. We would expect to have a really warm and respectful relationship with the environment we are part of. But we do know that while we have had a very positive relationship with planet Earth, developed its resources, protected those resources, we have become extremely destructive. And our violence and our destructiveness are now more commonplace than our protection and our development of planet Earth. We have to learn how to live in harmony and respect with our environment, with the Earth, with the whole cosmos. We have to be more in awe, in wonder, in amazement at the magnificence, the beauty, the power in this universe, which our new researches are showing us, are making visible for us. The one source of all that exists. This is our reflection, the second point in our journey. The one who sees the diversity, but not the underlying unity, wanders on from death to death. Another key sentence from our original wisdom. The one who sees the diversity. Now we all see the abundant diversity on our planet. Animal life, of plant life, of mountains and hills, of people, of languages and cultures. Wherever we look, abundant diversity, richness in the variety and the possibilities. But if we see this, and not the underlying unity, there is a great danger. We're facing the great danger now. We know, and we have just been talking about it in the previous video, we have become amazingly destructive of our planet Earth. A ruthless relationship with the environment in which we live. And we also realize we're becoming increasingly destructive of our relationship with each other. Our violence towards each other seems to be increasing. And why? Because beneath this wonderful abundance of variety, we have refused to see that there is a unity. We all come from the one source. We are all returning to the one source. We are a human family. We are bonded to each other in a way that cannot really be broken. When we realize this, one of the earliest questions that humanity asked in the story again of Cain and Abel is, am I my brother's keeper? Am I responsible for the other members of my human family? We took time to explore answers to that question. Being responsible, yes, for my bonding, my unbreakable bonding with every other human being. At the same time, the uniqueness each one of us has and our own responsibility for our lives and for the relationship with the Source and with humanity, which alone can bring us peace and unity. Two very vital challenges in those questions. Another challenge was, do I have control over my own life? Can I end my own life as a suicide bomber, for example? Can I choose what I will do with my life? Failure to see the underlying unity, the source from which we have all come, seems to be pushing us to a disastrous violence of the diversity among us, the abundant differences. Reflecting on my relationship with all the other members of the human family inevitably brings me to reflecting on myself, my relationship with myself. And perhaps you remember the song of the little Hindu monk, "You are not this body, you are not this restless mind, so be good, do good, serve, meditate, and realize you're not this body, you're not this restless mind." And he goes on, "Please believe me, do it and you'll be free. Not this body, not this restless mind, not the face I see in the mirror, not the photograph on my passport or my driving license. I'm not this. Then who am I? Even my most intimate physical relationships can only talk about the body, psyche, personality. Is there really something more? Am I really something more than this? St. Paul, among thousands of others, wrote that he prayed strongly that we would discover the hidden self. That your innermost self, your hidden self, may grow strong. The knowledge and the experience that I am more than this body, psyche, transitory, time, space, bound, personhood. I am something of that mystery, the source from which everything has come. From beyond the Big Bang to wherever we end on earth. After reflecting a while on the fact that I am not just this body, psyche person, I am also spirit, mystery, timeless, ageless. Why? Because I'm a human being. Then I can begin to reflect on the fact that every other human being, every other member of my family is also more than the body, psyche person that I see. That each one of us is unique, and yet we have all come from the same source. One of our great saints put it this way: look, first, see who you are. then become who you are. Where there is nothing, there is fullness. That is an unexpected and strange statement, but it's part of our wisdom. We're on a journey to the nothing that is full, the nothingness that is fullness. We're on our way. All human life is a journey of relating. Relating, first of all, as we said, with our planet, with people, our whole human family, then with myself, and then with the source of it all, and with me. But the source is a non-physical reality, a great spiritual mystery. Spirit, mystery, which is unknowable to my mind. So how can I relate to the source, the non-physical mystery? We have had many guides in all traditions throughout the centuries. The people who can lead us into the mystery we call the mystics. We chose one of all those that are available, one set of advice and help on the innermost journey to the self, to the place where there is nothing. We took it from the Buddhist tradition, the famous parable of a little boy who goes out to herd in an ox. And we looked at those pictures. And it comes to a point where there is an empty settle, the place where there is nothing, the place or the moment when I discover that I am indeed spirit, mystery. And so I discover that one source that we call by 1,000 different names. The one many of us use is God. Discovering a nothingness which is fullness. Freed from the fascination of my body's psyche, personal ego, freed from this, then I can go back to everyday life and live it differently. Turning limits into new horizons. And it may be that by the time I've reached this point, number 6 in the reflection series, I have a wonderful sense that my personal limits and boundaries are beginning to open up, that there are new horizons there for me to explore. And then I discover that the very vastness of what is opening up for me, psychologically, socially, spiritually, the dimensions are frightening, overwhelming. When we got to this point, the symbol of fractals was very helpful. To know that the whole is reflected in the part, and the part can be captured in the whole. These could help me to recognize that my life now has new cosmic dimensions. Yes, this everyday life I am living. I also realize that the questions that were posed by this reflection in the series were very challenging, personally very challenging. And in order to face them, I now need to allow myself to be attracted, drawn into a deep inner silence within myself, so that I can really listen to the message that's coming to me, to what I'm discovering. And the cosmic dimensions become awesome, but not frightening. By the time we get to number 7 in the series, our original aim to find a new way of living together in peace and freedom seems to become more possible. We have had many more suggestions and key ideas as to how we can respond to the crisis of violence and walk a way of peace and respect. We met one more at this stage in the words again from our original wisdom. When we can make the joys and the sorrows of all others our own joys and sorrows. When we can make a tremendous challenge in that simple statement. When we can live compassionately with all others, without discrimination, according to color or religion or sex. When I can live the joys and sorrows of the other as though his joys and sorrows, her joys and sorrows, were actually my own. How would it be possible to do that? To live at this higher level than just sympathy, for example? We have to drop all evaluation, judgment of what makes the other person joyful or sorrowful. Again, these are subjective experiences and we are unique. But it is possible for us to overcome the judgments and the evaluations we so easily make of others' choices in what is valuable and how to live. Compassion is a great challenge, but it is the greatest key as to how we can, in fact, live together in peace and harmony and respect. Without it, we will always want other people, to somehow be inferior to myself. The root of racism, the root of violence. And as we heard from Dom Helder Camara, a great fighter for social justice himself, unless we have, as we looked in the previous series, we looked to find who we were, to who we are, so that we can become who we are. Unless we've done this, all our efforts to bring about peace will only end up with us washing blood of our hands with blood. Challenged to live compassionately. We have made many self-discoveries in our reflections over the last 8 months. And our original aim of finding a new way of living, a new way of relating, a new way of being able to live peace and harmony in the crises of today's world and situation. But now we face not so much challenge as an invitation. an invitation to relax in total trust. Does that sound easy? To relax in total trust, and in the symbolic words of our spiritual scriptures, to dance across the abyss. That doesn't sound quite so easy. And we are invited to do it. It's not so easy either to imagine an abyss. So we looked at pictures of a man who walked about a quarter of a mile on a 2-inch rope across a section of the Grand Canyon in America with a drop of 1,500 feet to the Colorado River below him. And the pictures were breathtaking, awesome. Although this was the most awesome experience, and probably we were breathless at the thought of anyone being able to do that, and quite sure we would never even attempt it, it is but a very weak symbol of what we are invited to do. To cross our own spiritual depth, which cannot be measured. You can't look down to the comfort of a floor, even a river below you. There's no below, there's no in front, there's no way you can measure, there's no way you can know the spiritual depths. That is why we're invited to relax in total trust. And then we find that the only way to cross from the mystery I have discovered in myself into the fullness of mystery which has brought everything and holds everything in existence. The only way to cross my own spiritual depth into mystery is to accept the invitation to dance, to let go, to stop calculating, to let go control, and in deep joy, to trust. And the end of all our journeying shall be to arrive back where we started from, but to know that place for the first time. A line from one very well-known poem, which brings us to the end of our series. I thank you for joining us in this series of reflections, vital reflections, on our situation as a human family in today's crises of violence, and our aim to really overcome the tyranny of our own selfishness and fear, and be able to live together in peace and in respect. If you have been watching this series, we would be welcome any feedback you would like to give us as to what had been helpful or anything you'd found distracting that we can change. But more important for us is that your journey has been safe and joyful, and that as you have arrived back at the place you started from, reflecting back over each of the series in turn, you will see it all as though it was something new. You will see all the things you had missed before. If you have found this series helpful, you might like to look for other videos that have been presented on YouTube before this, and you might perhaps anticipate a new series beginning. whatever has happened for you in this series, realize that it is of tremendous importance to the whole human family in today's danger. I'd like to give you just one very simple example to keep with you. You have to use your imagination. If a large wall were covered with pieces of mosaic, a mosaic picture in all different shades of red, but only red, and somebody came along and took out one tiny piece of red from a corner of the picture and replaced it with one tiny piece of blue, just one tiny piece of another colour, and the whole picture has changed. If you have made this journey your journey, found your horizons, your boundaries opening into new horizons, your values changing a little, your choices along with the values, you have changed the whole human picture. So please continue. We need you.